short clip, we will look at order, so the way in which events are ordered in terms of time. And we're looking in particular at what Jeanette calls anachronies. Now, an anachrony is a disruption of the linearity of the chronological order of events in the narrative. So, for example, if events took place in the order A, B, C, D, where B follows A, C follows A and B, D follows A, B, and C, etc. An anachrony is when this progression A, B, C, D is disrupted. So the chronological order in the fabula, the story, is different from the chronological order in the discourse or sujet. Events are told in a different order. If we look at what Toulon says in Narrative, a Critical Linguistic Introduction, an anachrony is any chunk of text that is told at the point either earlier or later than its natural or logical position in the event sequence. Typical anachronies that we will deal with are flashback and flash forward, but we will call them, using Jeanette's terminology, analepsis for flashback and prolepsis for flash forward. So analepsis in literature is a device which is very frequently used. If you remember the Odyssey, when the War of Troy ends, Troy is destroyed by the Greeks, and Ulysses returns home to Ithaca. It takes him many years to go back to Ithaca, and at a kind of strategic stops, he tells a listener the story of the war. So he goes back with memory and bring him back so that the reader knows what happened in Troy, his narrative of the events. So that is an analepsis. Another example happens, for example, in crime fiction. Crime fiction or crime films, think about a crime story in a film, normally start with the outcome of a crime that's been committed. So imagine a dead body found on a floor. And then the narrator investigates, and at some point he or she starts reconstructing the story retrospectively. So the narrator tells the reader how, why, and who, so that the reader makes sense of the story. Analepsis can be either internal, external, or mixed. If you imagine that this is the beginning of my story, and this is the end, the last page of the narrative, an external analepsis is a flashback that narrates events which are not part of the story, which took place before the story started. An internal analepsis is a narrative that progresses up to a certain point, and when it arrives to this or another internal points, it goes back to refer back to events that took place previously. A mixed analepsis, this is the case here, starts before the beginning of the events in the story, which you remember we locate here, and continues some part into the narrative